The Day I Became God revolves around a guy named Yuta who has a crush on his childhood friend who basically never acknowledges he exists in the first place, and who plays basketball on his high school team as they all basically study to try and get to college. The main character trying to get into college with his childhood friend / crush. And when he encounters a girl in a sort of nun habit who introduces herself as Odin, claims she knows everything, and that the world is going to end in 30 days. By some crazy surprise, she ends up convincing the main character's parents to let her stay with them, and she just basically, moves her way into his life. And because he helps her out with something, she lets him, pick one thing that she's gonna help him do, and he decides to get with his crush. And basically, the show goes on from there, as we sort of get this idea as we're going through the story that Odin might actually kind of know everything, at least to a certain extent, because she is able to predict events with startling accuracy. The bulk of the show, however, is sort of about Yuta not necessarily always trying to get with his crush, although a good number of 3 of the episodes are dedicated to that, but Yuta, Odin, and the people who end up gravitating into a circle due to the hijinks they get into using Odin's powers to sort of just go about their daily lives in a sort of wacky shenanigans. It's very comedic in the early episodes how it goes. At one point, Yuta masquerades as someone who fixes dying restaurants, and this is really early on into the story. And in another episode, he ends up entering a mahjong tournament, but he has no idea how to play mahjong, and he ends up winning just because he ends up listening to Odin's advice on how to play mahjong, because of course she knows that. So it's really quirky and sort of funny, and it's basically just a wacky, almost slice of life-esque comedy at the beginning. It has a running secondary plot that is directly tied to the main plot about a group of guys who are trying to track down the research material about this professor who recently died. And these two parts are directly connected to the ending, which I think is easily the worst part of the show. To be honest, if they never explained Odin's seeming omniscience, I think the show would have actually been better. I think the serious aspects of the show are definitely the weakest. There is an exception where the childhood friend crush Izanami, that's her name, ends up reconciling with her dad thanks to the help of the main character and Odin. And I think that's a really good heartfelt episode, but I think that's about as far as we needed to go with it. I definitely don't think we needed to address the sort of ending, which I will talk about just by skirting the edge of what happens, where Odin is basically revealed to end up having a brain disease. And I don't think the last 3 episodes were all that worth watching. If the show had ended before where they start filming the movie and Odin gets kidnapped 4 episodes earlier, I would have enjoyed the show a lot more. Because I think when it tries to be super serious and we have to go through the rehabilitation process for Odin towards the end, and we have to go through this thing where it's oh, she doesn't have her memories. Oh, we gotta get her remembering everyone we've seen so far. It's played out. We've seen it 100 times before, and it feels sort of forced. And what's more is it feels like there are plot threads related to the professor that are just sort of left hanging. Because once the professor's research is obtained, it never comes up again, and then it's just all about rehabilitation and brain disease, and it really falls. It doesn't fall apart in that the writing's bad, but I feel a significant level of quality drop at that moment, just because it's so counter to the rest of the tone of the show, and I don't think the show balances the serious aspects and its comedic aspects too well outside of that one instance with a childhood friend and her dad. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of hope. Bye-bye.